My name is David. I'm 46 years old, and I'm an alcoholic. That sentence doesn't come easy. Not for someone like me. For over 20 years, I built a reputation as a sharp, unshakable litigator. Ivy League law, top 5 firm, custom suits, polished shoes. I thought success was armor, that it protected me from myself. I was wrong. From the outside, I had it all. A corner office downtown, a beautiful wife, Melissa, a golden retriever named Baxter. But every night, after closing arguments and conference calls, I drank. Alone. Quietly. Predictably. And always just enough to get numb. And this is my story. In law school, I drank to take the edge off. Everyone did. But I noticed early on that I didn't drink like others. I didn't want one. I wanted 5. Or 10. I didn't want to just loosen up. I wanted to disappear. I was one of the youngest in my class at Columbia. High expectations, long nights, cutthroat peers. At first, alcohol felt like my secret weapon, a shortcut to sleep, a pause button on anxiety. My roommates laughed about hangovers. I hid mine. I'd skip early lectures or sit through class with dark glasses and Advil. But I still graduated top of my class. During my internship at a prestigious New York firm, I started hiding bottles in my desk. A few nips before a deposition, a splash of vodka in my water bottle. It was subtle, calculated. I never slurred, never missed a deadline. I told myself, if I'm winning cases, I can't have a problem. Melissa and I got married during my second year at the firm. She was elegant, bright, and believed in me completely. I kept the drinking hidden, even from her. She saw stress. I saw an opportunity to drink more once she was asleep. My wife thought it was stress. Melissa would say, "You work so hard, you deserve to relax." So I kept it hidden. The refills in the garage, the bottles in my briefcase, the miniatures in my car console. I'd walk into court like I owned the room. Jury selection, cross-examinations, closing arguments. I was masterful. But in the quiet moments, red lights, hotel rooms, Sunday mornings, I hated myself. I had 2 identities. The confident attorney-clients trusted with million-dollar decisions, and the man standing barefoot in the kitchen at 2 a.m., drinking out of a coffee mug so Melissa wouldn't hear the clink of ice. I lived in a constant state of performance. My days were full of sharp lines and confident rhetoric. My nights were blurry half-memories and quiet shame. I learned how to function hungover. Mouthwash in the car, eye drops in my briefcase, backup ties in case of spills. At firm events, I'd switch to soda water in front of partners, but stash vodka minis in the restroom. I knew how to smile, how to spin stories, how to redirect suspicion. People called me reliable, meticulous, tireless. If only they knew how tired I really was. Melissa started asking questions. Why do you always smell like mouthwash? Why do you lock your office at home? I always had an answer. Half-truths layered with legal precision. She wanted to believe me. I wanted to believe me too. Meanwhile, I missed anniversaries, slept through birthday breakfasts, wrote apologies on hotel stationery I never mailed. Melissa asked if I was okay. I said I was tired, overworked. She believed me. For a while. It was a Monday morning trial, civil litigation, nothing flashy, a real estate dispute between partners. I hadn't prepped the way I normally did. I'd been drinking since Friday. Melissa had threatened to leave. I didn't care, or pretended I didn't. That weekend, I'd isolated myself completely. I turned off my phone, ignored calls from my client, and drank in my study with the blinds shut. I told myself I was reviewing the case, but I barely touched the file. By Sunday night, I was 3 bottles in and had convinced myself I could wing it. Monday morning, I walked into the courthouse dizzy and sweating. I hadn't eaten. My suit was wrinkled, and I'd forgotten to shave. Still, I told myself, just get through it. You've done worse. I stood before the judge, started my opening statement, and blanked. I mean, completely blanked. Words left me. My mouth was dry. I looked down at my notes, but they blurred. My hands shook. My voice cracked. I tried to recover. I cleared my throat, shuffled some papers, muttered legal jargon that didn't quite make sense. Opposing counsel objected to my incoherence. The judge peered down over his glasses and asked if I was all right. "Allergies," I said, voice rasping. The courtroom was silent. I could feel every eye on me: client, jury, colleagues, clerk. A colleague sitting in the back later told me I looked like I was having a breakdown. Somehow, I stumbled through the rest of the day. The plaintiff's attorney picked apart my weak points. My client sat with arms crossed, his faith in me clearly evaporated. Outside the courthouse, he confronted me. "Have you done this before? You looked unwell in there. What the hell was that?" I had no good answer. That night, I didn't go home. I sat in my car in the courthouse parking lot, engine off, sipping from a bottle of bourbon that had been gifted to me as thanks for a case won. It was raining. I don't remember when I passed out, only that I woke up to the sound of a parking security guard tapping on the window. My suit was soaked, my shame complete. The Bar Association opened an inquiry. My client filed a grievance. I wasn't disbarred, but I was suspended for 90 days, a professional death sentence in my circle. Melissa packed a bag and went to her sisters. She said, "You need help, but I'm not going to watch you destroy yourself." I spent 2 days alone in our house, not eating, not sleeping, just pouring whiskey and Googling, "How much can you drink before your heart stops?" That's when I called my old law professor, the only person I knew in recovery. I don't even remember what I said, but I know he picked up, and he said, "You're not alone. I've been there." He took me to my first AA meeting that same night. He mentioned it was a professionals meeting, a group specifically for doctors, lawyers, executives, people who were supposed to have it all together. That got my attention. I wore a blazer, tried to look put together, but I was shaking. My hands wouldn't stop twitching, and my mouth felt like sandpaper. I sat in the back row, near the exit. Everyone seemed too happy, too calm, almost like they belonged to a different species. I remember thinking, these people aren't like me. About 20 minutes in, a woman named Carla stood up to speak. She was maybe in her early 50s, immaculately dressed, with a calm, steady voice that filled the room without forcing it. She said, "Hi, I'm Carla. I'm an alcoholic, and I used to be a partner at a law firm downtown." That alone made me sit up straighter. She talked about drinking at her desk, waking up under conference tables, losing custody of her kids, all while being named one of the city's top 100 litigators, 2 years in a row. She talked about hiding vodka in shampoo bottles, forging client signatures during blackouts, and showing up to court with vomit on the inside lining of her coat. Yet she wasn't ashamed. She was honest, calm, present. And suddenly, I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a disgrace. I was just someone who needed help. Carla made it okay to be broken. She made it believable that I could come back from this. Not really know what my next step was, I took a white chip. After the meeting, I sat in my car for almost an hour. Not crying, not thinking, just breathing, for the first time in what felt like years. The first 90 days were excruciating. I felt every emotion I'd spent 2 decades avoiding. My nerves were raw. Simple tasks became monumental. Grocery stores overwhelmed me. Emails piled up unanswered. I cried during commercials. I jumped at sudden noises. I shook through the night. The silence I had once craved became deafening. Without alcohol, I had no filter for stress, no defense against guilt. I started to notice how much of my day had revolved around planning drinks, covering up, lying. And now there were all these empty spaces. Space in my schedule, in my conversations, in my thoughts. It was terrifying. But I went to meetings. Every day at first. I sat quietly, listened. I didn't speak for the first 2 weeks. I wasn't ready. I just took it in. The laughter, the brutal honesty, the stories that mirrored mine a little too closely. I clung to the routines. I made coffee, stacked chairs, got phone numbers. I called my sponsor even when I had nothing to say. Especially when I had nothing to say. Melissa didn't come home, but she answered when I called. We spoke in short sentences. It was something. I started to notice moments of clarity. A walk where I didn't think about drinking. A full night of sleep. A morning when I made coffee and actually tasted it. They were small wins, but they added up. And I didn't drink. While working the steps, I was actually looking forward to making amends to Melissa. It was the hardest. But she listened. She cried. She said, "I miss you." She came home 6 months later. We started going to therapy. I started showing up sober to my own life. Today I'm still a lawyer, but I'm not the same one. I work fewer hours. I speak at bar association wellness events. I sponsor other men in recovery. Melissa and I walk Baxter every evening. I make breakfast most days. The house is quiet, but peaceful, not shameful. I still go to meetings. I still feel cravings, but I don't drink. Because the silence I used to run from? Now it's where I find peace. If you're watching this and living a double life, the successful professional with the secret problem. I get it. You don't have to crash and burn to change. You don't have to lose everything to start over. What you need is honesty with yourself and maybe one other person who's been there. Whether it's a therapist, a trusted friend, a recovery group, or someone in your field who's walked a similar path. Reach out. The help is there, and it looks a lot less like punishment and a lot more like peace. I know what it's like to feel trapped behind success, to perform on the outside while you're falling apart inside. But I also know what it's like to live without that weight. So start small. Tell someone. Tell the truth. Let the real you step forward. You might be surprised who's ready to walk beside you.